Welcome to A Journey to Whole Woman Health, the podcast where science, mental health, and faith come together to educate, empower, and encourage women in every season of life. We're your hosts, Dr. Jamie Irwin, board-certified OBGYN, and Dr. Mary Catherine Nader, licensed professional counselor with a PhD in counseling. Let's begin the journey. Thanks for joining us on A Journey to Whole Woman Health. If you've ever gone to bed exhausted, replaying all the things you didn't get done that day, or the ways you think you fell short, this episode is for you. We're going to be talking about overcoming perfectionism, trading pressure for wholeness. Dr. Nader, I'm really excited. We're going to dig into this. It applies to us. We are talking to ourselves today, as always, but especially this topic on perfectionism. Yes. Get us started. What is perfectionism?
So perfectionism is often praised as something that's, a discipline or ambitious or something to strive to, but really it can be so confining for people. It can be overwhelming. It can be like a chain that holds us back. I say us because I have struggled with it too. Yeah. We often think if something's worth doing, it's worth doing well, which we sometimes think perfectly. Mm-hmm. So we think it's such black and white thinking of either do something perfectly or don't do it at all. Yeah. And I think that's for us while we're doing this, one of our first episodes on this topic, because here we are, we're doing this thing that we don't really know what we're doing, but we're not going to wait till we can do it perfectly. Yep. We're figuring it out as we go. And that is a good thing. That's normal, even picking out like this shirt. Like, is this the perfect shirt? It doesn't exist. Like, just put a shirt on, be clothed, Yeah,
I think it held us back from doing this. Mm-hmm. And our hope is that this podcast is a gift to so many women. Mm-hmm. And
we know it's not going to be perfect.
Oh my gosh.
We're going to make mistakes. We know we're going to say things and then go, why did we say that? Right. Or why did we do that? Yeah.
Right. But that quest for a perfect podcast kept us stuck, and we didn't move on it.
Yeah.
Also life. But, it was really just this like, how do we do this? How do we make it happen? What if it's not perfect? And truth is, it's not going to be. But so here we are.
And I love that done is better than perfect, because oftentimes we think we're going to put something off until we can do it perfectly. But really, often, if something's if it's worth doing, it's worth doing well. I actually had a professor pull me aside in grad school because he noticed I struggled so badly with perfectionism. That's how bad.
Wow.
And he said, Mary Catherine, if something's worth doing, it's just worth doing. It is just worth doing, Yeah. And that's so true. Like for this podcast, if this is worth doing, it's just worth doing regardless of the outcome, regardless of how many followers we get, like, it's just worth doing because we want to do it and we enjoy hanging out together and talking about these things. So I think that's true in life too, with everything.
Absolutely. So I think all women in some way, fashion or form, can experience perfectionism, battle with it. We're going to talk about kind of where it comes from, how it shows up, what it looks like, how it affects our health, our relationships, our faith, our joy. And then we want to wrap up this episode with very practical, actionable items, an action plan that we can take with us.
Sure.
And move forward and recognize this is not a one and done.
Right.
I'm not going to be cured of perfectionism.
There's no perfect way to end perfectionism. This is a constant thing.
So true. So true. So where in your own life have you seen this show up? You mentioned the shirt today.
Oh my gosh,
it's lovely,
everywhere.
by the way.
Thank you.
Look great.
Thank you. I think a friend gave it to me cleaning out her closet. I realized that as I was putting it on. But I think everywhere, I think I'm just constantly second guessing, questioning. And really when it comes down to is thinking, is there a perfect way to do this? A perfect time to do blah, 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 whatever. And just the reality is that perfectionism is a ghost. I think even as a mom, especially when you first become a mom, you want to do it the right way. Everything else in life here's the right way to do it. And then you become a mom and there's not a right way. There's not a perfect way. Mm-hmm. So a lot of the clients that I see who are overwhelmed with anxiety, this is underlying it, this sense of like somehow I'm failing because I'm not doing it perfectly. But when you ask them, what does a perfect mom look like? They can't even describe that because every mom is different.
Mm-hmm.
So we're just chasing a ghost. We're chasing something that doesn't even exist.
Yeah.
And feeling overwhelmed by that, and not just in motherhood, in so many things.
And it's such a moving target.
Oh, always.
Right? It makes me think
Exhausting.
of that scene from the Barbie movie.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Where the actress, what is her name? America.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
She's the mom in the movie,
Yes. Uh-huh.
right? And it's like, it's just so poignant. I'm going to butcher it. I'm not going to do it justice. But if you haven't seen that film, it's worth the watch. It definitely wasn't what I expected the Barbie movie to be.
Right.
But she just talks about that, how, don't be too pretty, don't be too much of a boss, don't be,
Right.
it's a moving target, right? And that's what makes it so impossible.
Impossible. Absolutely impossible. And the reality is it just doesn't exist. And I think that's why it's so exhausting.
Yeah.
Because it is. It's this moving target that's literally not even a target because there is no such thing. It just does not exist.
Yeah. So where do you think it comes from? What's the root?
I think that it's a big piece of it is us wanting to prove ourselves, show that we're worthy. We put our value on our performance or on our outcomes. A lot of women, again, back to the pregnancy thing, you're feeding this baby all the time, you're caring for this baby, or maybe you're pregnant and you don't feel good and you're not able to do as many things as you did before, whether it's just around the house or whether it's at work or all the things. So then you start to feel down about yourself or less of yourself because your value is determined by your output or what you've achieved or what you've gotten done or how you look. So often we put our value in those things and they're fleeting. They're always changing. And so then when those things do change, we feel lost. We feel overwhelmed.
Not to mention social media. What impact does that play?
Social media is huge. I personally am not really on social media. And I think that's a big issue for a lot of new moms, especially they're home and they're flipping through social media. I've had moms tell me 12 hours a day. That is a beat down. I mean, and I've had, and I'm sure you have too, I've had patients who are social media influencers. Let me tell you, nothing on there is true. It is not. And it is exhausting and it's overwhelming for them. Like, they are clearing away this space to make this one perfect section that you're seeing in that picture.
Right.
It is not real. And then we're comparing ourselves to that. And it's exhausting. If people are not really putting on social media what's happening in their lives, they're saying it on the therapy couch or on the, in their doctor's office. But what we're seeing on social media often is not the full story.
And yet we think it is.
And we think it is.
And we think it's attainable. I'll tell you my own life as an OBGYN, perfection is expected.
Yeah.
I can't risk anything less.
Yeah.
Because it is life and death.
Yeah.
I know that sounds dramatic, but there is a baby's life on the line. That mother's life is on the line every time I am in labor and delivery caring for a woman in labor, and anything less than perfect is
imperfect, meaning healthy baby, healthy mom, or perfect meaning what?
I think that's the problem, right? Healthy baby, but also more and more lately patients bring in this ideal. And again, I think social media is a big part of this, right? Of the birth experience and what it will look like and what it will be like. And, if they have a laceration, if they have a perineal laceration, then is that imperfect? Like what are these standards that the patient is putting out there? What are the standards I'm putting out for myself too? Then you have to add in all the hospital metrics that are tracked. I mean, and I'm the medical director at our women's hospital. So I see behind the curtain and I am the one tracking these numbers. And they're good things that we need to be aware of, right? Yeah. Episiotomy rates, those need to be very, very low.
Yes.
Guidelines tell us that routine usage of episiotomy is not recommended. as well as our C-section rates.
Yes.
We need to be looking at how to lower, especially that very first C-section, because we know if a woman has a C-section, she's more likely to have a repeat C-section.
Right. Yeah.
And with each C-section, there is a higher risk of complications. So we have these pressures for, quote, perfection, metrics, patient's expectations, my own expectations. And so it's learning, how do we navigate that?
Yeah.
And really, I guess it comes down to, am I doing my best?
Right.
And what is that going to look like? And am I providing the best care that I can in every single situation and showing up as my best self day in and day out?
Yeah. Yeah, which isn't always possible. I mean, like, it's just sometimes not, like there are going to be mistakes. Like, you are human, you know. I'm human as a practitioner too. And I think that's why it's called practice, because we are practicing, we are learning. And it's hard to hear, but it's also important. Another reason, like we talked about in our previous episode, of why we take care of ourselves, because so we can show up in that way, and to be available and ready to care. But yeah, it is. It's a lot of pressure for sure.
It's a lot.
OB-GYNs.
Let's talk about what perfectionism looks like in different ages. So say a teenager. We both have teenage daughters.
Yeah.
What can that show up as?
I think it can show, it's interesting. Perfectionism can be a tricky thing. Kind of that like black or white thinking. Sometimes it looks like procrastination. And you would not think that that's perfectionism.
No, I wouldn't.
But it can be, because, for example, like we said, our podcast, we've said we were going to do this a year ago, but it's like you can put it off because you think it's not going to be perfect, or I'm not doing it perfectly, therefore I'm going to procrastinate, Even like messiness can be that way. It can be a way of us like, well, I either pick it up perfectly or I just leave it all on the floor, like that's that black or white thinking versus just the something's better than nothing.
Okay.
Done is better than perfect. Like progress, not perfection. These are all quotes that I literally have up in my own closet because I have to remind myself of these things. When I feel that tug to say, nope, I only have time to do this much, and that's better than nothing. Even working out, like I'm not going to work out at all because I don't have an hour. Actually, just going for a walk around the block, that's better than nothing.
Yeah.
It's literally better than nothing.
So if I get in my kitchen and I feel so overwhelmed and I feel that urge to, like, I need to just clean the whole kitchen.
Yes.
So what would be better if I just took one drawer and said, I can do this.
I can do this drawer. And I just have time to wipe down this counter, and good. That's better than it was before.
And that could be enough.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's the other good word, enough. Perfection versus enough.
I love that.
Okay. This is enough. And even telling yourself, this is enough. Okay.
So for our teenagers, maybe our college gals, procrastinating that project.
Messy, could be, procrastinating a project, could be putting something off or avoiding because they're afraid that they won't do it well enough, or that they won't, girls and guys, both. Just this kind of thought of, if I can't do it perfectly, I'm not going to do it at all.
Yeah.
Or I'm not even going to try. I know I was that way with a lot of things, even growing up. Like, I know I'm not going to be the best at that, so I'm just not going to do it.
Yes.
Instead of just doing it to do it. Just doing it because it's worth doing it. And for the experience,
Yeah. Good. What about later in life? 20s, 30s, young professionals?
I think it continues, those same things. I think the feeling of anxiety, a lot of times, like I mentioned before, underneath it is a sense of perfectionism. I'm not going to say every time, but it's like there's something we're saying to ourselves when we feel anxious. And what is that? I like to ask people, kind of pause when you're having that feeling of anxiousness. What am I saying to myself right now? Like, I'm going to fail. I'm going to do this poorly. Well, that means that there's a failure in a perfect oftentimes, or I have to do this perfectly. What does that even mean? So just be curious about that. What am I saying? And is that really even true? And is that even possible? Like, how do I perfectly clean a kitchen? Like, that I mean, your perfectly clean kitchen looks better or different than mine.
Yeah.
Like, they're totally different. Who's deciding this perfectly clean kitchen?
Who's making these standards?
Who's making these standards? I'll often ask people who are feeling overwhelmed by that, who is it that you're afraid is going to come into your house and look around and judge you for whatever, And then let's say that they do. Let's say that Aunt Shirley does show up and thinks that your house is a wreck or the kitchen drawers are not organized properly. So what?
Yeah.
What if she thinks that?
Well, speaking for myself, I feel this deeply.
Mm-hmm.
I do. And I think if we have listeners who were high performers as children, whether it be grades or sports or performance, music, drama, whatever it was, and there were accolades that came along with that.
Yep.
Right? So now
feeds the loop.
Now all of a sudden we're adults. I mean, you've probably seen these memes before, right?
Sure.
Like, all you straight A, 4.0, med school graduates, valedictorian, blah, 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 which neither of us were the valedictorian, but how's marathon training going?
Yeah, yes.
Right? And I'm like, I feel so seen. Like, what's happening right now?
Yes.
But I think it's deep-rooted. I think it's early on in childhood where we get noticed or recognized when we do well. How does that affect us later in life?
I think exactly what you're saying. We're both talking from our own experience, and everybody who knows us is going, I can't believe they're talking about this because this is, I've seen them struggle with this their whole lives.
Yeah.
So we know that this is funny, okay, Mom, we get it. But I think that it's just, you learn that cycle of reward, and then you're looking for that next thing. Mm-hmm. And I think it goes back to the value. I think it's a huge thing to start recognizing, am I putting my value in this, whatever it might be, achievement? And it is so hard to recognize that because there's such a good feeling that comes from achieving something or being able to show, what we've accomplished.
Yeah.
And it's hard to just, be a beloved child of God. And that's it. That's where my value comes from.
Right.
And so I actually have a little thing on my desk next to all the things, reminders. Again, I like to put quotes to remind myself everywhere, but it says, "This is my happiness. God is my father and I am his child." Mm-hmm. We are always trying these other things and then we just feel unfulfilled by them, or we feel fulfilled for a minute and then it's over and then we have to find something else, Mm-hmm. And again, I know we both experienced this.
Yeah.
So I think that can be a big piece of it, is just starting to recognize for ourselves how to find our true identity in that. Those other things are great, but they don't determine our value.
Our worthiness.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Even though the world tells us that they do,
Mm-hmm. And that we have to earn the worthiness somehow, some way.
Mm-hmm. But again, that's a moving target because you get this, you achieve that, then you want to achieve this next thing,
Yeah. And I know I struggle with that feeling like I have to earn rest.
Yes. My husband Joseph will tell you that for sure. That I struggle with that. Yes.
That I have to earn it. That somehow, I see it if I'm out of the office, we take a family trip, I'm on vacation, we did that for the holidays. And then I come back, it's almost like I feel like I have to make up for that.
Yeah.
And stay on late. And I did this. I literally did this the first day back after being out of the office for a week. Stayed, I wasn't on call, but stayed till midnight anyway.
Yeah.
Because I felt like I had to earn it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'll do the same thing. I'll schedule a long day of catching up with all my, clients, patients when I've been gone.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And that's no way to come back from a break, right?
It's miserable.
Why aren't
for me and for them?
Yeah.
I'm like,
why aren't we kinder to ourselves and set ourselves up better to transition back after times of rest?
Right.
Or just being more intentional with times of rest.
Giving ourselves time. Yes.
Absolutely. Well, you've definitely mentioned faith and our worthiness. What about our listeners who maybe don't have a faith background? How does this fit in for them?
I think anybody can struggle with perfectionism just because it's so in our faces and in our culture all the time, to just see. And I think a good question just to ask is, what is enough? At what point is it enough? And to really just start to try to answer that for yourself. Ask yourself, what is enough? I mean, and that can be for anything. Like, what level of salary, is enough? What weight, is enough, like body-wise? What achievement at work? There's just so many different things. I often say, like, if we couldn't define ourselves with any numbers, how would you define yourself? You couldn't define yourself by, your GPA or your address or zip code or status of how many years of blah, blah, whatever, like, who are you without any of those numbers? And just starting to really think about where do I place that sense of value? And a lot of times too, relationships are so important. I mean, our friendship, that's what brings joy, is true, your relationships with those who you care about. This other stuff doesn't matter. I mean, and even if you achieve that and you don't have anybody to celebrate it with,
exactly,
it's not so great.
Exactly.
So figuring out where you really want to invest your time, your energy, your emotions, is it in these just achievements that, not to minimize them, they can be great, but they're not going to constantly fulfill, I remember hearing an interview about people who make lots of different levels of money, and none of them ever said this is enough. They always felt like they needed to make more money, like you think you're going to get to this certain level, but you're just going to feel like I need more, and it's exhausting.
It's that moving target once again.
Yeah.
So I think I would answer that question, how would I define, did you say success or enough? How would I define enough outside of perfectionism? I think for me, it's going to be how I make people feel.
Yeah.
After they're with me.
Yeah.
So whether that's in the exam room or the delivery room or the operating room, or whether it's in my own home.
Yes.
My husband, my children. Because no one, of course, there's not a perfect metric there.
No.
You can't put your finger on how people feel. But I want to strive to have people feel heard and seen and whole.
Yeah.
And that's what we're talking about here, right? Is not perfectionism, but wholeness.
Yeah.
So how would you answer that for you?
I think, yes, I think the same. I really think, I think it was a Mother Teresa quote, and I'm probably getting this wrong again, perfectionism, but that, if you want to change the world, go home and love your family well. And it's so true that the things that we think are going to be this big thing, it's really the small things, it's really the small intentional things that we do for other people, and for ourselves, how we take care of ourselves, how we listen to other people, how we respect them, love them, spend time with them. Those are the things that really end up making our lives great, and that end up changing other people's lives, and those are things you can't really put a price tag or an accomplishment or check off on, because it's the intentionality behind it. So I think that's a big thing for me, is just intentionality is another, just recognizing to be intentional about things versus just focused on the outcome, because another reason that brings anxiety is you can't control that.
Yes.
You can't control the outcome, but you can control the habits that you make. You can control the time you spend with people. You can control the relationships you invest in, or at least the effort you put into them. You can't control the other person,
Absolutely.
But just recognizing those kinds of things, because that anxiety comes when we're trying to control these other things that we can't.
Mm-mm.
We can't control.
And gosh, we want to.
We want to. Yeah, exactly.
I think that's such a big piece, is that quest for control that definitely comes alongside perfectionism.
Because if you want it to be perfect and you think you know how it should be perfect, then you feel that need for control, you know?
Mm-mm.
It's exhausting again because you can't make it perfect and you can't be in control.
Wow. That's huge.
Yeah. Speaking from experience.
We've got it all, guys.
We've got it all.
So we want to practice good enough. Like, kind of just even coming out of my mouth, I'm like,
yeah,
I don't want to be good enough.
And I don't know if even good enough, like I didn't really like the good enough either. I kind of like just like enough. Like, this is enough.
Yeah.
Like,
Good.
this is enough laundry for the day that I've done. You know, I don't have to do all the laundry. I was able to get this load folded, and that's enough. It might not be put away, but it's moved forward. It's been progress, you know?
We're just leaving it in the dryer at our house.
Yeah, leaving it in the dryer. You need socks, go fish them out.
No, that drives me crazy.
They're
Drives
in there.
me crazy. Let's get into some of the nitty gritty.
Sure.
Let's, what do they say? Where the rubber meets the road.
Yeah.
Like, how do I actually make this happen? Dr. Nader, what are some actionable items? Please tell me how.
Yeah. Okay. So I think, like I said before, like noticing your inner dialogue, like what you're saying to yourself. Really, I tell my patients, it's like you're watching a movie and it's like you just try to pause it. Like, wait a second, what's happening right now? And maybe you can't do it in the moment. Maybe it's later in the day. Maybe it's even the next day. But you just look back and it's like you rewind, pause. Like, what was happening there? What was I saying to myself there?
Or maybe whose voice was that?
Yes.
Maybe it's not I'm telling myself this. Whose voice is in my head?
Yes, exactly. What is that saying? And then how am I feeling about that? What do I feel in my body, you know? And sometimes it can be that EMDR, which is a trauma processing, can be helpful. Sometimes it's from trauma that we've experienced. I don't want to generalize that to everybody, but for some things it can be.
What does EMDR stand for again?
Oh my goodness. Eye movement, desensitization, and reprocessing. It doesn't actually always involve eye movement. Like with my patients, I actually use tapping because all mine are women and I want them to feel that they are in control. You know, that's a lot of times trauma is from not being in control.
Okay.
And we can have a whole another episode on it.
We're going to.
We are. But so I think noticing, just kind of pausing that and thinking about it and noticing what is it that I'm saying to myself, and then thinking, would I say that to my friend? Like, would I say that to Jamie? There have been times that I've actually asked myself that. Like, would I put that expectation on Jamie? No. Why would I put that on myself?
Mm-hmm.
Or if Jamie said that to me, would I be offended? Yes. So why would I say that to myself?
Exactly.
You know?
Good. So kinder inner dialogue, recognizing it. Does journaling here help?
I love to journal. You know me. Yeah. I'm a journaler. And I think journaling helps because it dumps it on the page and it helps us externalize it. It helps us to see it. Again, perfectionism, you might think, oh, I can't journal because it needs to be perfect. And no. So take the journaling is a great way. That's one of the first ways I started practicing dealing with perfectionism is write it messy, write it in complete sentences. Doesn't have to make sense. Nobody else is going to see this. So put it in phrases.
This is a very private piece of my perfectionism journey I'm about to share with you.
Do it. Share it.
I still journal. I'm kind of a journal dropout, but I had to use the same color ink in my journal.
Yeah.
That's how deep my perfectionism goes.
Yes.
It was like all black ink. If there was only blue available, it was like, oh no, it's not happening. Journaling is not happening if it's not in the same color ink. How messed up is that?
Because it's all, and like I had to get a journal. The first journal I had was like you could tear pages out. Oh no, I had to switch that because I had to have the bound pages. So it was like, it doesn't matter. Just write it on. Like we're not getting rid of the imperfect. Like it's just so ridiculous.
I know. I've come a long way.
So it's important to like, that's a perfect example.
Yeah.
Like literally practicing doing it in a different color ink and just feeling that discomfort.
Yeah.
And then it's almost like we're retraining our brain to see like, and then it was okay.
Yeah.
And then everything was fine. Actually, there wasn't a journal police that came out and said, wrong.
No.
You can't journal like that.
It didn't like melt in my lap or anything. It was
because
okay.
I think that's again the thinking about what's the actual goal behind this? What's the purpose for me doing this? Is it to have a perfect journal? And what does that even mean? Or is it for me to have this intentional experience?
Yeah.
And if that's the goal, it doesn't matter what it looks like. Same like we're doing this podcast,
Right,
you know?
right.
Is the goal of this to become this incredibly amazing fit? No.
I mean,
like,
I do.
I mean,
want it to
I
be.
wouldn't mind
Mel
it.
Robbins, please call me. Call me.
But like, it's the intentionality of we're going to do this together and we're going to have fun. And that makes it not overwhelming because we can control that.
Totally.
We can have fun with that.
Yeah.
You know?
I also, as far as journaling goes, I think this is important. I heard this, that our brains are not good storage devices.
Yes, that's exactly right.
They are processing units like computers. So they can process things, but they cannot store. So I think this is where kind of that bedside journal I mentioned in our intro, you know, you go to bed thinking of all the things you didn't accomplish, or you wake up in the middle of the night with racing thoughts, and write it down.
Yes.
The brain is not meant to be this endless storage capacity. It's meant to process. And so by putting it down on paper, you know, call it a brain dump.
Yeah.
Brain dump, download all of that, get it down in messy ink, messy paper, messy journal. Good. Okay, that's actionable. Yeah, I can do that. What else you got? What else can we do to overcome perfectionism?
I think that's perfect. I think setting boundaries is huge. You know, setting boundaries for yourself and then for even your time. Like that done is better than perfect. Like sometimes those things that we're avoiding, even setting a timer. When this timer goes off, I am done with that task or whatever it might be. Instead of thinking I have to keep, you know, working on this until it's perfect. And then asking for help, you know, recognizing those limitations is huge. And then I think just recognizing that we ourselves need to give ourselves compassion, like that self-compassion, you know, of just, I'm doing my best here. I can do what I can do. I can control what I can control. And really I'm here for, I think, giving that upfront and reason that you're doing whatever it might be helps to set the tone or the expectation. So identifying what that expectation is rather than perfection, what is my expectation here, you know, from this experience or whatever.
Setting boundaries is huge. Huge. You know, being okay to say no. And no
is a complete sentence.
You took the words out of my mouth.
It's true. You don't have to say why. You don't have to give an excuse. You can just say no. And then clear is kind. You know, I think a lot of times we feel as women, especially, bad turning someone down or saying we can't do something or whatever, but being clear about it rather than just leaving them hanging. Most of the time they're like, okay, great, thanks, moving on. They have somebody else to ask or they have someone else to reach out to. It is okay to just say no.
And just because we can do something doesn't mean we have to or that we should do something.
Right.
I am guilty of taking on more and more and more onto my plate because people ask me to, and because I want to. And I also have some people pleasing. I want to make people happy, but pulling back and saying no is definitely a part of overcoming perfectionism, in my opinion.
Well, because saying no is always saying yes, and saying yes is always saying no. So when you're saying no to something, you're always saying yes to something else. You know, saying no to going out and doing that thing is saying yes to being home with my kiddos, you know, or vice versa.
Right.
You know, so it's never like we're only saying no. So in some ways that helps me because I think you're always saying yes and no at the same time. Saying yes to going to the gym is saying no to doing this other thing, but it's also saying yes to feeling good for my body, you know?
Right.
So it's like, and saying no to that allows me to go to the gym. So there's always a yes and a no. And so I think it's important to recognize one affects the other. And it kind of takes a little bit of that guilt women experience sometimes about saying no to recognize, actually, I'm saying yes to something else when I say no to that.
I love that. It really reframes it. That's beautiful. Asking for help is huge. Recognizing you need help.
Yes.
And then being unafraid to verbalize it, to communicate it, and not be worried that you will be viewed as less than.
Right. Actually, it normalizes it for everyone to say it's a good thing to ask for help.
Yeah.
I need and our kids need to see us ask for help.
Oh, yes.
Because that helps to normalize it for them. There's so many times that I think, okay, how do I want my children to act in this situation in the future?
Yeah.
Okay, that's how I need to act. You know, because no matter what we tell them, it's what they actually see us doing.
Speaks much louder, doesn't it?
Yes.
So important. This has been so good. Any other actionable items you want to leave us with?
I mean, this is a topic that I'm always collecting things on and always learning and challenging myself on. So this is just a definite like growth space for me. And it's something that I really like. Again, perfectionism, you're never perfectly done with it. We're always learning and we're always seeing how it's affecting different parts of our lives. So being honest about that and allowing ourselves to just be human and recognize what's enough.
For sure. Perfection is exhausting.
Yes.
Wholeness is freeing. You're allowed to be human.
Yes.
You're allowed to rest. And you are already enough.
Yes.
Thanks for joining us. In this episode, we'd like to highlight Mercy Clinic. Mercy Clinic is a free medical and dental clinic that offers care to uninsured adults in Fort Worth, Texas, in the zip codes 76104, 76110, and 76115, who earn less than 200% of the federal poverty level. Guided by God's love, the volunteers provide excellent medical care, dental care, as well as spiritual care. We're always looking for medical volunteers. Please spread the word and check out Mercy Clinic of Fort Worth.
Thank you for joining us on a journey to whole woman health. If this episode encouraged you, share it with a friend, leave a review, or subscribe so you don't miss future conversations. Remember, your questions matter, your health matters, and wholeness is a journey. Until next time.
Now for the legal language. This podcast is for educational and informational purposes only and is not intended as medical, mental health, or professional advice. The information shared on a journey to whole woman health is not a substitute for individualized care, diagnosis, or treatment from your own physician, mental health provider, or qualified healthcare professional. Always seek the advice of your personal healthcare provider regarding any medical or mental health concerns. Never disregard a delay seeking professional care because of something you heard in this podcast.